And welcome. Complete not scuffed entrance, but we already have 10 viewers, which is great. So,
Let's go.
welcome to another episode of Enter the Matrix. I've got my lovely co-hosts with me. That is
Finally, the
Nathan
three
and
together.
Pumba.
Finally,
Finally.
nobody died in the meantime.
This time, come
Yeah.
on. There's still time.
We managed.
during
We
this episode.
managed.
But yeah, this week we plan to tackle the hottest topic of the month, even, which is Atlanta, which will be starting to be played in 20 hours, 22 hours from now.
Something like that.
Yeah,
So
pretty much.
kind of excited for that one, although because I think the meta is great right now for singles to even touch upon singles on this
Legit.
teams focused show. So yeah, the plan for this week was to touch upon some of the players that we know are good but might not be known for the audience that mostly is consuming the data from GW, their biggest events, GW Opens, etc., or the UKTC. So you probably know mostly the Anglospheric point sphere of influence that's surrounding 40k. And we want to shine some light on few people that are outside of that sphere of influence that you might not know yet. But I think those players, we wouldn't be too surprised if they got into top 8. They won their respective pods and maybe even won the whole thing. So
Yeah.
seeing
I think
Good Hammer posted their post today, and most of them highlighted some of the US UK players. It's always nice to show some of the others, even though Danny tried his damn best to handle it anyway. So
I think there is
Pumba,
a good.
how are you?
Can you hear me, guys?
Yes.
Cool. I'm good. We've just recorded like an 1.5 hour episode on actually the first ever Polish live stream on our site. So my voice is already a little bit tired after that. But generally, I'm good. I'm very excited about this event, which I am very surprised that I am, because I don't normally usually follow singles at all. But I think the whole situation with the championships is legit hype as fuck. Like I'm surprised how much hype there is, and I think this is felt throughout the community. And as you said, it is very, very exciting that we have come across, like, this event happened exactly right now, where the meta is, I believe, the best it was in possibly years in terms of singles.
Maybe late 8 was better for singles. Maybe
the I think a year ago or something, where you had also like a sneak peek of some of the greatest moments of like 10th edition singles meta. But overall, I'm pretty excited about the current state of the game, and I think shining the light upon some of the lesser known players, but people who are like members of the WTC teams, very good players that we know, mainly playing on
some
their
of them
local...
being trapped in being in Belgium.
Amen. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on, and like, I'm legitimately hyped. I'm gonna be following the event closely.
Yeah, we have a Polish size big, so 40 people singles event this weekend.
Like
Where
30,
me and
I think,
Pumba-
which is by the way hype as fuck. I love like 30-man events. Like, legitimately, small events are where it's at.
7 national team players signed in,
something
like that. So we're hyped for playing singles, which is something that probably after next balance data slate you will not hear me say anymore. But we'll be following the Atlanta throughout the event. I can imagine we'll be having co-streams happening in the background. If you finish the games early, you would just watch the streams. Yep. But Nathan, yourself, how are you feeling with your brother already flying over there with money and Aidan on the plane?
Yeah, it's good. I think he was very, very excited to be going. Not sure how he felt about his chances. He had a difficult run at Coventry over the weekend, Coventry GT, having played, of his 8 games, he played 4 Eldar mirror matches, because that's singles sometimes. One of which was the exact same list as his, which is always fun.
Or he deserves it.
Oh yeah, play Eldar.
Very hard to find compassion for anybody playing Elder right now. Still.
And one thing was quite funny because he took my Chaos Knight to LGT, and he did reasonably well at LGT, and then he took Eldar to this, and I just said like, "Oh, which one did you actually enjoy?" And he's like, "I absolutely hate playing Eldar," and he's the third person I've heard saying that. So you've either got to swap onto something interesting like your guys' list, or you've got to stick and play the horrible one. But I think they're both very excited. Manny's hyped as always. Naz is going nuts in the England chat. I think he's already drinking, which probably means he's not going to make tomorrow. But yeah, I'll definitely be hearing lots of updates from, because I think England has 10 players there.
Yeah, most of them are like
highest.
And they are around the WTC team as well, like the players who are going
Most,
there.
yeah.
Except Mikey, obviously.
Yes, not Mikey. Because Mikey won an event at Warhammer World while everybody was at the WTC.
The entire country just left and he just swooped in. I love it.
He's just like, all the good players are gone. So he won that event, which, quite, to be honest, you got to win ticket. How are you going to win it? I actually got a gold ticket. I just decided not to go because I can't really be bothered with singles that way.
Yeah, we've had a similar thing in a couple of. I think Poland had 2 tickets, and one of them went to Leuleu after one of the team tournaments that I actually won with him. We decided that he should go, and he was like actually yearning to go. And I think the second one and the Polish Team Championships actually went to Valentin from Germany, who was a part of a mixed team of like Duda, Mason, Valentin,
Liam, Arne, Valentin.
and Arne, right? Yeah. So basically, even though we possibly could have had 2 people going, Valentin just wanted to go more.
There was also another Polish team that won 5 tickets at one of another team events, but none of them could make it.
Yeah, so that's the thing. It's still, to be honest, it's still Atlanta. It's still like crossing the fucking ocean to go play Warhammer.
Yeah, it's 4,000 euros.
Yeah,
at least.
Like
yeah. And then you need to take days off.
I really hope that this event does well and it travels across the world. It would be hype as fuck to actually be.
If it was in Europe, exactly. I would be traveling there to just be there.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I mean, I think it's very obvious that they are starting with the US, but I'm really hoping that they could make it like an event that travels all across the world. That would be hype.
Unlikely while Mike Brandt is the one who's running it. Obviously being American-based, I would presume it'll stay in America for quite a long time, or they'll branch out and do it as an American one and there's European one, or whatever they could do.
Sure. I mean,
we'll see.
Cool. We got our chit chat already. So maybe let's get straight into the 9 players we've chosen. So each one of us chose 3 players that we wanted to shine some light on. And there was not really any specific reasoning, except let's choose mostly non-US, non-UK players. So there's 1 US, 1 UK player. So because, someone had to choose them. But let's directly share my screen. Maybe I'll make it work. And yeah.
An actual PowerPoint presentation. Holy shit, I haven't seen those in years.
Yep.
There you go.
Let me make it better. Now it should work even better.
Amazing.
Hell yeah.
Holy shit.
Professionalism.
I'm just always so grateful it's not like, let me just share my screen and it's just porn. that's always the worry.
Look, when I was doing the stream today on the Polish channel, I was like, holy shit, I need to check all of my browsers 3 fucking times.
Yeah. Magneto mode. Yeah.
I mean, it's my company PC that I'm like
Of
laptop
course.
that I'm
So
streaming
this is
on.
even
So
more
it
problem,
would-
is what you're saying. Okay,
Yeah.
I get you. Right,
Okay.
who are we starting with?
Me.
Who is this gentleman?
With Nathan, you're last in all of the threes. I chose in Pumba because you were already talking before. So,
Let's go.
I'm a merciful god.
Thank you.
Mm.
I appreciate it.
So, Nathan,
I've,
what's the reasoning?
I've picked a couple of lists that it also was the list itself that piqued my interest, more so than necessarily the player itself. But we all know Caillou, long-standing member of the German team, very, very good player, always very creative with what he takes, definitely always tries something a bit different, uses maybe factions that are via maybe the meta reports, they have good stats, but then again, maybe not ones that are
Let
winning
me
events.
interrupt you quickly here because you said we all know Caillou. I think that's true for you and me. But do you know when was the last time he was on the team? On German team? 2014. So people might not know it.
Oh. Maybe
Long
I'm
time
mistaken.
So yeah, because I had the absolute pleasure to play Caillou 3 weeks ago when he came over to basically destroy our Polish tournament with a group of German people, blitzkrieg his way through it. They have a
they
pattern,
have
I
a
guess.
tendency to do that. I've
Yeah.
noticed.
So Caillou was a player that was, I think, in nearly all of the German teams till 2014. And he was one of their better players in terms of scoring. He was, from what I recall, he never got to like the highest scorer in their team, but he was always very solid. And he was one of those Germans that you would call in the bad times as a good German. Like he was always a pleasure to play.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
and he was also a player that would innovate whenever he went to a tournament. And you could see it if you would look throughout the events he played in previous year. If you would see the stats from the German events, he would always take something completely different within Tyranids. So yeah, back to you, Nathan.
I did not realize it's been since 2014. I guess because I
Yeah,
started
we're old.
2009.
It's 9 years ago.
Wow,
Jesus
okay.
Christ.
I feel old.
Oof.
But yeah, so he's on NIDS, which one thing I like about, say, the World Championship is even though it is what it is, everyone's trying to win it. It's very prestigious to win something like this or as big as this. Some people still stick to their guns or still stick to the fact that they are going to either do well with something that is what they either love playing or have practice with. What I mean is not everybody looking through the list is there's not many people who've taken ridiculous armies, but there's quite a few people who've still taken what is the meta or what we would see as the singles meta. We're going into the list. Some nice options in there. You got the normal Hive Tyrant with adaptive biology, so it's got the Feel No Pain, takes a wound, gets better Feel No Pain. Neuro Tyrant, almost mandatory these days because it's very good to put synapse on something and then let it run away. Old Stink Eye, who obviously sits in a unit of 2 Carnifexes, which we'll go over in a minute. But one of the quite interesting things, he's got Broodlord with Perfectly Adapted. Perfectly Adapted allows you to get a reroll to hit, wound, save. But I think more importantly, you use it for, it gives the bearer a reroll to an advance or a reroll to a charge. So effectively, in a unit, he'll also get those rerolls as well, which is kind of nice for 15-point upgrade. The standard 1 Biovore, which is basically an every Tyranid list, you got 10 Gene Stealers. Now, looking at Stealers, I'm interested to know how well these have been doing for him. I'm not sure with how much indirect there is in the game at the moment, how great they are, but anything with that has the capabilities of doing with certain strats and certain abilities upwards of 10 mortal wounds or devastating wounds is good.
That's what I was thinking. Like, I think this is pretty standard of a list. I mean, to some extent, there's some couple of choices, but I think the Steelers and the Broodlord are like the biggest standouts here.
Yeah.
And didn't Gene Steelers lose something in their transition to the Codex? Am I just
Full reroll to wounds. They have only reroll once. when hitting someone on objective.
Yeah, so they hit on 2s now rather than they used to hit on 3s. And they now get real 1s to hit, which they didn't before. But yes, they've gone from having, if your opponent was on an objective, you get 4 rerolls to wound, to now, if your opponent's on an objective, you get real 1s to wound. So with things like the strats where you can explode on 5s, because he's gone for invasion fleet, you get either 6s auto wound against vehicles or exploding hits. Against, say, for example, if a full unit with Broodlord gets to charge a Yunkan, you'll knock a Yunkan down in 1 hit. The only problem I have with that is...
Holy shit.
Yeah, so...
On average, that unit inflicts A wounds on a Sagitar, for example.
Okay.
On average, but it can spike with Broodlord.
Gotcha. So is it meant as like a trading piece here? Because they have infiltrate, I assume, right?
No, they have Scout 8.
Okay.
Yeah, if they had infiltrate, they'd be a lot better. It would be nicer if they were actually. So I think potentially with the terrain, it allows you to add a bit of pressure, get to a good staging point.
Would the idea here be to stage them behind the ruin with your scout move and then try to trade for something on the objective?
Potentially, yeah.
Okay.
And they also do not die that quick. Let's be honest. They are still 2 wounds nowadays with invulnerable save. They are not necessarily bad, but when you compare their price point, and I think with Broodlord is around 250 points, 220, something like that.
275.
For the entire package?
Yes, it's too expensive compared to what other people can take now.
So when you compare it to like Maleceptor and Haru specs for the same price point, it's iffy. But at the same time, I don't know the terrain pack enough to say whether this might not be something that you just chose because of the terrain pack.
I think that's very probable. I haven't played on any of the GW terrains, but I looked at them extensively. And I think there's definitely some excellent staging points for such a unit. And I think that's very valuable to have something like that actually uses the table instead of just... I think the same theme is double 3.
What I also had in mind is that he already has a lot of monsters. Having 2 more might be just too clunky on those boards.
It would be, yeah. And they'll have no fire lanes because some of those tables are... You play on GW tables and you look at it and go, there's perspex sheets everywhere. So you think, oh, there's line of sight everywhere because they're like a big perspex sheet, which is see-through with like a giant container on it, which doesn't look like anything. But actually, when you start trying to line shots up, you can't see anything. Like I've played on a couple of events now that use GW terrain and things like exocrines and such, they just struggle.
Okay.
Anyway, sorry, I'll finish the list.
Yeah.
2 Neurolictors as standard, single Pyrovord, strip cover, very useful. Single Ripple Swarm, go do an action. 2 units of 3 Raveners is a little bit interesting. I prefer 2 units of 10 Gargoyles, just find them faster, better for blocking, more OC. But Ravener's been able to pick up deep strike themselves, quite useful. He's still running the Carnifex block, which is a pretty decent into certain things, but against Eldar, they're okay. Against CSM, they're a bit pointless because of the AOC and terrain. You basically are minus...
I assume these have the Death Spitters, right?
Yeah,
so a lot of shots.
Yeah, I love them. I used them for 2 or 3 events and thought they were fantastic. Then you've got 2 Exocrines, a Horospex, and a Maleceptor. So still pretty monster heavy. Nice Gene Stealer unit, which actually gives you some mortals, which against some things is actually quite... Sorry, I should stop saying mortals. Devastating wounds.
Sure. Tomatoes are better.
Well, almost devastating wounds are better because people who have abilities that give you a save against mortals don't actually work. So, because fuck you, Custodes.
Amen.
Yeah. But yeah, I'll be interested to see how he does. I think obviously he's a very, very good player. And there's some interesting choices in there. The only thing is, I just don't know how good the point sync of a Gene Stealer unit is when you think there's Night Spinners ruin its day. Marines, everyone has 2 to 3 whirlwinds in every list. CSM out-trade it Like, for example, even one Lord with a chosen unit probably wipes it, even with Feel No Pain. Yeah, it's just for its points. If it was 30 to 40 points cheaper, it'd be a much better investment. But it just feels a bit.
I am very curious about the lack of gargoyles, as you've mentioned. I think they are one of the standout units in the Codex, and I just love their possibility, like the possibility of them screening out stuff, move blocking. It's just so useful, and
But sounds like a conscious choice, because when you look at lists that Caillou brought to Polish Team Championship, he had 0 gargoyles. At Pyra, he had 0 gargoyles. Like, he must make it work somehow. So at this point, I'm not doubting him. I think it's a conscious decision on his part.
Is this similar to what he's been playing at Pyra?
No.
Against you? Because you've played...
No.
Not similar, okay.
Pyra, he had full-on monster spam.
Gotcha. Okay. So this must be a tech into the table choices, basically, or the table terrain pack, rather. I like it.
Yeah.
Very interesting in how they actually...
Or choosing the models he doesn't have 3D printed.
I'm not 100% sure gargoyles will be that great on that terrain, just because they say when you go from WTC terrain where there's a lot more walls and such, these gargoyles are just a little bit not as great.
They are fighting for the same positions as the monsters behind those ruins, right?
Yeah.
Because you don't want to step into those terrains pieces.
Yeah.
Like 10 32 mil bases is going to take up, or 28 mil bases are going to take up too much space.
I think they are on 32 legit because they have the flying like drones.
They are flying bases.
The flying bases.
32.
Yeah. They take up a lot of space, so that makes sense. Okay. Awesome.
Okay. So, anything else to add about Caillou and his list, Nathan?
Good fucking luck, I guess.
Yeah, like he's in an interesting pod as well. He's actually in Josh's pod with John Lennon as well. So that's quite a good. There's someone else in that pod as well. I'm being rude.
John Lennon?
There's John Lennon.
There's Josh Roberts. There's somebody called Ines.
Ines, that's the one.
Ines something Wilson, I think.
Yeah.
Apparently he's good.
I've heard some things. Yeah. No, I think he'll do well. Do I think he's going to win the pod with Nids? Probably not. But
I think he's one of the people that I don't think there's a lot of Nids generally in the tournament, right? I think there's legitimately like 4 lists. Yeah. Which is a very conscious choice. I think Nids are much, much, much better in teams. They just struggle into very specific matchups. And in the case where you cannot necessarily dodge those, I think they might just struggle there. It's very hard to solve some of the issues.
For sure.
So, moving on. A person that we already mentioned before, and that's Valentin, the guy who won the ticket from the Polish Team Championship. And Valentin, who was also on the German national team, and they won Pyra, and they won DMP. So, they kind of made a crusade over Polish events there in Germany. So Valentin went for Necrons after all, which I find very odd. Like, I dislike Necrons a lot nowadays.
Same.
And
I'm a Necron.
And I chose him because of 2 reasons why. He is not known. Second, he's taken an army that everyone has countered. And this is a point where I was really curious, because we had a discussion one day with you, Pumba, that there's a lot of Necron players, but there's maybe 3 really good Necron players in the world.
True. I actually agree. I think there is an unimaginable difference between playing like a top of the world Necron player and playing anybody who's just at your local store, or even legitimately at your GT, or even a major. I think that style of list that has become popular, the ones when you like basically 40 warriors, right? it's night and day difference, I think, between playing someone who is excellent at them and abuses every single little thing that the list can do and provide it, and just playing someone who put it on the table and just plays it like he thinks he should. Saying that, I still fucking dislike Necrons.
Yes. And this list, when you look at it, it's basically take Liam Hackett's list from WTC, drop out Nightbringer, put in 10 Triac Praetorians. And so for the people listening in, I will just list it. So there's Catacomb Command Bard, Chronomancer Weveil, Sheras, Zeras, I don't know how you pronounce it in English. In Polish you say Sheras, so it's Sheras. Then there's Emotek the Stormlord, a choice over other lords because he doesn't make the stratagem free, but he gives you a CP, and I think he also has Vect, so a good choice. Orican the Diviner, Technomancer, Transcendent Ctan with pain, 2x20 warriors, Ghost Arc, Reanimator, only one squad of two squads of Prowls, and 10 Praetorians. So quite common version of Necrons. Just go 20 Necron warriors, full buff them, and hope you don't play into armies that kill you.
Which is
Yeah.
most days.
So interesting. This is, as you've said, this is very similar to Liam Hackett's list. Liam Hackett also bringing Necrons to this. Also, pretty much his WTC build. I think maybe some of this stuff changed, but like minuscule changes, if any. But I think the meta has changed around them a little bit. That's definitely the case. And what I would like you to discuss, or us to discuss rather, is, do we think this beats Eldar consistently? Because I think it does. I think
Yes.
Eldar might be its best matchup. I think this is Eldar killer.
Yes.
Do we disagree?
So
Nathan? Because you're clearly
Yeah.
not sure about that.
No, I do agree.
Mhm.
However, again, it goes back to what you said earlier about player skill.
Mhm.
There are, say the Ignite guys or whoever, they run that matchup enough times that they feel like the Eldar can beat Necrons. But then
I agree.
again, I don't know.
but
if
they are
they're
playing into David, so
Sure. It's the who you play. It's the Necron player. If they might have had loads of practice into Necrons, but a very good Necron player might have had more games into Eldar, and that person's a better Necron player. So
Yeah,
yes,
I think
on paper,
this-
yeah.
The typical Eldari lists, I think, definitely can win that matchup, but I don't think it can win it with equal player skill. That's my opinion. I think with equal player skill, this I think should smoke Eldar pretty handedly.
Yeah.
Especially when we are talking
Raid
no
Guard
differential
will not
system,
work in
right?
this army.
No differential system, which me, Typhus,
Yeah,
Colin,
and
Nathan are used
You
to.
can also
You
see
just
it.
need to
Like this
win.
army
It's very
is
hard
meant
to pull an 11
to
out.
not give out easy tactical cards. That's something that also Liam Hackett done at WTC. And I think this is a way to make sure that opponent has to play fixed to some extent. And the way that I saw Eldar win this matchup was when they went for behind enemy lines and homers, which I feel like it works against not a good Necron player, because good enough Necron player can screen the whole his deployment zone with just the warriors and still have the how do you call them, tendrils of warriors going to the markers on the board. So I think this is another case of this not working as well into a person that knows the matchup in and out.
Yeah. I
Which,
actually
by the way,
very like
they
the
have
Praetorians.
7 Eldar in the pod. So
Jesus. Oof. Which pod is it, by the way?
So it's Leshu's pod. Out of
Oof,
Eldar
that's
players,
Oof.
there's Quinton, Fred, Colin. I don't know Colin. So there's few other players that I genuinely don't know.
Yeah, there's Quaintance, Fred, Cheyenne.
There's
Colin
Etu
Power,
that you
yeah.
might not know in that pod, who's quite good, by the way.
Yeah.
one of the better players in Finland.
Yep. There's a lot of Eldari to be slain by those Necrons. Oh my god, this is also Liam Hackett's pod. So 2 of the best
Yeah, like
Necrons
this
are
pod.
in the same pod. Holy shit, imagine bringing that and then fucking playing a mirror in your pod. Fucking imagine that happens. Holy shit. That would be amazing.
I wish it.
I wish that was streamed, because that would be
Yes.
legitimately amazing. It's
So, yeah.
gonna be either the worst game of Warhammer you've ever watched or the best game of Warhammer you've ever watched.
I'm going for the former.
Very possible. Very, very, very possible.
Yeah.
I actually like the Triarch Praetorians. I've played against a couple of Necrons that run them. I think they are very useful tech piece with some devastating wounds on their pistols. I think they are generally a very techy unit that fills up the role that Necrons kind of lack currently. I think they are an excellent choice. I am still the prime Transcendent Catan hater. I think that dude with the upgrade is way too fucking expensive for what he provides. And I was saying that like months ago, and I'm still not a fan. I think almost every, if not every single list I have ever played can kill it in a turn without expending too many resources. Maybe that's just my bias, but I cannot see how this model for 310 points can provide. Like, I know he does missions, he can like slow stuff down and stuff. But hey.
Cool. Let's continue, because we're not gonna be here for 2 hours, please. Then, Pumba, your choice.
Let's go! That's the list.
Another semi-German player, like, right? Belgium was Germany
Surely.
for a long time, right?
He's I think he won a couple of RTTs in England current not long ago. Like, I think LGT was one of them and Coventry was the other, both with CSM, by the way, so he's bringing that card, of course.
And last 2 Polish team events that he went to, he scored 100 out of 100.
Yes, that's exactly what happened. Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. If I was betting on anybody winning this tournament just of pure player skill, and he's just rolling the vibes and like the insane amount of just gas that he has in tank that just cannot run out currently, it would be Liam.
Yeah.
Like, legitimately, not talking about this list would be an oversight, I think. What's interesting about this is, of course, Liam jumped ship to Death Guard, because Death Guard is a hammer in a meta full of nades, which is, I think, literally his list title on BCP. And I wholeheartedly agree with that. I have been talking to Liam before he went to Atlanta about Death Guard, about his ideas on the list, about putting like brigands in the list. This is his concoction, very straightforward. 3 rhinos. Going through the list, 3 rhinos full of Plague Marines, 2 units of 10 and 2 units of 5. Accompanying the Plague Marines are 3 Biologist Putrifiers, which are the grenades dudes that provides you lethal hits on 5+, and lethal hits on all of the weapons. 2 Follow Blight Spawns, which are the Flamer dudes that provide your squads with Fight First. Then we have 3 Plague Bear Scrollers. I believe Liam is running all of them with Entropy Cannons. 2 times 3 Nurglings, just you do bring Nurglings in Death Guard because missions are apparently worth scoring. And 3 Warlock Brigands for a nice, I think, 1995 list. I have been playing basically the exact same thing for a little while, like 2 weeks, I think, maybe less. I've played like 6-7 games with it. I think this army is absolutely insane.
We have it in our screams nowadays, and in 2 screams we found 1 bad matchup.
Yeah,
1.
Legitimately, today was the day when I was filling out the matrix against Northern Ireland for our scream with this army, and it's pretty fucking good, let's say. So the situation here is the mix of Plague Marines, which are ridiculously cheap right now, because 5 of those dudes will run you 80 points, which is dirt cheap for 5 toughness bodies with AOC 2, and that would be almost enough to run them. But they are better than that. They have 3 heavy weapons in a squad of 5. You have got a special weapon, which is either a melt or a spewer, which is a kind of a flamer with infantry, anti-infantry 2+. You've got a plasma on the champion as well, and the meat and the thing that holds those squads together and makes them pop are the characters. Biologist Putrefiers are dudes that cost you 50 points, then can provide you with lethal hits on every single weapon in your squad, including meltas, plasmas, everything. On 5+, which combos also with the sustained hits stratagem for the army, which actually, excuse me, sir, could you? Thank you. Because I don't actually remember the list. I'm just playing it. So these are amazing. You can throw a lot of grenades in a single turn if you wanted to. Just drawing your opponent's mortal wounds. You've got Foul Blight spawns, which is shoot good and fight first good this edition, when suddenly everybody's playing CSM, World Eaters, any other trading unit, right, that struggles to pick up that squad, just if it sits behind the wall. The Predator Burst Crawlers are interesting for me, because this is one of the units that I've always found to not do anything. And they are very swingy, let's say. What I think about them is you always expect them to do absolutely nothing. You expect their no line of sight shooting to maybe kill 2 models, maybe, in a single turn. You expect all of the entropy cannons to never hit anything or wound anything. But they are relatively cheap. I believe they are 165 points. They have OC4, which is huge. They are durable with 2-up save, 5-up invuln, and a huge footprint. 12 wounds, toughness 10. They legitimately can be a very difficult thing to remove off our objective or trade effectively into for people. And actually, with a stratagem that Vanguard has, that I think I would never recall the name. It basically says that if you pick a unit and an enemy unit in contagion range of this unit, which is 3, 6, then after 3 it's 9 inches, then your entire army, when shooting at that one specific enemy unit, has ignore cover and heavy weapon rule, which suddenly makes PBCs way fucking better. And again, in the latest data slate, Vanguard has gained the contagion, where they actually do stuff. They have actually detachment roll, which is not -1 toughness. It's -1 ballistic skill or weapon skill. It can be -1 armor save, or it can be -1 OC. All of these I have used at one of my games. These are fucking amazing. This army plays primary very well. Brigands benefit from your contagion. Like if you want to reduce enemies' armor, Brigands benefit from that. So you have AP3 chain cannons, you have AP6 melta. What the fuck? This army is very, very good. It plays primary incredibly well. It's very hard to shift them from objectives if they want to take it. I legitimately, after playing it a lot myself, and including the fact that Liam is probably the best player in the world right now, I would call my shot there. This is my favorite to win the entire event. I think this has good matchup into CSM. I think this beats Eldari. I think, and I'm very fucking curious about this, I think Necrons might be one of the worst matchups for this list. And he has 2 of them in the fucking group.
Neil mentioned that it would be great for Liam to win it, because the whole community would just go apeshit over.
You see,
Vanguard.
I kind of hope he does win it, and I kind of hope he doesn't, because I really enjoy the rivalry right now, and it would be really fucking sad to have it nerfed so quickly after Liam just smashes everybody with it, which is surely going to happen, and you know it. But yeah, this I think has very interesting matchup into Necrons. I have not played that matchup. I think it can be very tricky, and he has both Liam Hackett and Valentin in his group, which is kind of wild.
Like, for people who do not know the names, Group 8 doesn't seem that hard, but for me, when I look at all of the groups, Group 8 is like, it's insane.
It's insane. Group 8 would be
8
the most stacked event by itself in the entire world, and it's just one of the pods. It's fucking crazy.
So, moving forward, another choice by Nathan.
Sorry, just going back to that last list.
Yeah.
As we're somewhat of a teams podcast,
yes.
Do you think this list is viable enough for team, or good enough to go, we won't take demons elsewhere and we won't take a Chaos Knight army?
No. This army takes demons always. I think it doesn't need the knights.
Yeah,
I think I would never take the knights away for my death.
I don't think knights are needed in an 8-man.
I think
seeing some of the
pairings
pairings,
Chaos Knights in my 8-man.
Okay, I would not choose them always. From seeing some of the pairings, how they could have some issues with the pairings, I wasn't as sold on them.
Okay.
Like, I think they are good. I can see not taking them and taking Vanguard with War Dogs. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, definitely. I would, as someone playing this list, I would happily drop the Brigands. You sacrifice some of the matchups there, which is fine. We are talking teams. You just play 40 Plague Marines then. Yeah. And you are perfectly fine. This list still slaps a lot of matchups. It just doesn't have this wide coverage that you require for singles, right? You just drop some of the matchups, you leave the Knights alone to do their thing, and you fill it up with more like a Force Rhino with more Plague Marines, some of the other stuff you might throw in, maybe a drone. There's a lot of stuff actually in DevGut that can work right now. And I think this army, like by itself, just with Nurglings, because you really fucking need those Nurglings, can be absolutely amazing for teams as well.
Then, Nathan.
Yes.
Your next choice.
I'll run through this one. This was more just because it's army choice. Again, I do like Nids. But this is one of the kind of lists that I've been playing around with a little bit personally. And I think if played really well into certain matchups, it is very, very good. So we've got Colin Watts from USA. He's using Nids, but it's Vanguard attachment rather than the regular either High Fleet or Synapse. So you've got Death Leaper, Neurotyrant with Hunting Grounds. Hunting Grounds is awesome. Every time your opponent brings something on from reserve, on a 2+, they have to take a Battle Shock test. It's just fun and annoying. Winged Prime with Neuronode. Neuronode, I think, is the best enhancement in the game. I get to redeploy 3 units, and it's after knowing what turn somebody gets, which is just bonkers good. 2 units of 10 Gargoyles, Biovore as usual, 2 single Lictors, 3 single Neurolictors, Pyrovore, 3 units of 6 Raveners, 3 units of 6 Von Ryan's Leapers, and then 3 Venom Thropes. So with the Nid Vanguard having awesome strats to be able to manipulate how they're moving, how they're doing things, being able to redeploy 3 units and then infiltrating 3 units of Von Ryan's Leapers, you can certainly overwhelm and force play quite a lot, where you can lob in all your Von Ryan's Leapers first turn, back them up with Raveners the next turn. You've got 6 lone ops, Gargoyles block things. You've got the ability to, loads of the list can do precision, which in some matchups, when I've been trying a list like this, you're able to just rinse characters, which gives you the ability to play certain games. I'm not saying it smashes Necrons or, say, Wraithguard, but it gives you the ability to at least take the important characters out of those units to some extent. Piloted very well, a list like this is very good. I just thought it was more interesting. Again, we're going to a World Championship, but somebody's actually tried to be more creative than necessarily just, here's the same Eldar list that everybody sees. So yeah, I'll go through that one pretty quickly.
Yeah, makes sense. I am super not sold on the Vanguard detachment being any good. I have not played anybody who's legitimately good at the game, like highest level, play this detachment to a good result. So I'm very biased in that direction, that I probably have not seen the full extent of what this army can do. But my main concerns when looking at this for it basically isn't this too cute, or maybe there's so many scoring pieces, right? This list just seems insane in scoring. It has 2 fucking lictors, 3 narrow lictors, 2 times Gaius, Bioforce, but it's scoring for days, for years.
Yeah. The damage output's the issue.
The damage output, and doesn't it all actually died, like, just gets blown off the table by anything that looks at it. Of course, you have lone ops, you have stuff like that, but what if someone pushes the big red button on it and just checks what it can actually do, right? You just deploy on the line with a relatively durable army, I don't know, fucking Space Marines, Death Guard, CSM Rhinos, anything really, and you just check your opponent if he has the damage output to kill you without dying himself. What happens then?
So this list is, you could maybe see a team list like this, because into very specific matchups, it's one of those, maybe it's, again, you probably won't see it. This is a very hypothetical list, because it's also, going first, this list is so much better than it is going second. Because you can, in some games where you go, the way I was playing it was, I would put, say, Death Leaper and 2 lictors literally 9 inches away from my opponent, just in the middle, and then 3 Von Ryan units in like important kind of tactical places. Then if I'm going first, I then put the 18 Von Ryans on 9 inches away from my opponent's deployment zone. And then I'm charging you, because obviously everything in there gets disengage and charge and advance and charge. So I'm charging you with 6 units on the first turn. And then I'm bombing another 3 Ravener units forward. So it's kind of one of those, all the little stuff at the back is doing all the scoring. If I can basically start tying up everything in your army, then you can kind of get to a point where I'm going to get tabled, but if you've not scored primary for the first 2 turns, I might beat you 80 to 65 or something like that.
It makes perfect sense.
That's kind of, if you're against some armies, say that Death Guard army, you'll absolutely bounce, because the Plague Marine units can literally sit in the open and go, cool, charge me. And go, first, you're dead. Go away. Then, it's matchup reliant.
What are the best possible matchups for this list, you would say?
There's definitely, I haven't played enough games with it. It's quite good, I think, into a more MSU meta. Because it's just something that it can tie up enough. It can go around and kill characters. It's good at killing, it's very good at killing small units. I wouldn't say it's great at killing the Death Stars that we have at the moment. This might get a lot better when maybe more balances come through with some of the things that maybe are towards the top of the meta at the moment. But no, I don't think this is winning anytime soon. I just thought it was really interesting. And it was interesting
I think what's interesting here is you've mentioned this is good versus MSU builds, and I can definitely see that. And I think we kind of have
MSU builds in vehicles.
You see, this is my first thought.
Yes.
Like, we have a lot of things in Rhinos in the meta right now, right? But you could possibly just fucking tie them up, because you are never killing those Rhinos, probably. Right? You can just surround them for days.
If they don't know about it, yes. The problem is if they just deploy behind the Rhinos.
Yeah. Yes, that's a possibility and a problem. I really would like to see that this particular list be on stream, for example, because I would love somebody to show me how this is supposed to work. This, for example, especially not going first. I think then the holy shit, this list can struggle a lot, but I also think there's still a lot of tools that it has.
It's an interesting one. You would have to play a lot of games with a list like this with a very good player to get the most out of it.
Just
feel like.
Just like if you had the choice, as a team captain of 8, to bring this or any other NID list, like the more typical invasion fleet, maybe the synaptic stuff on monsters. Do you think this has a big enough niche that it can actually be more valuable than those monster match lists?
So that comes down to how you're building your team, I guess, because you might look at the monster match list now and go, it'll probably get 7 points out of almost everything now. But if it's not winning you games, how useful is it? If it's a matrix of 7 to 12 points, maybe that is worth taking. This, on the other hand, might have, look, I can go and smash certain things, but I'm probably going to get absolutely smashed by other things. But I think with the way that NID list is built up, even if you play defensively with this, it's got so many little things, so much little scoring, so much maneuverability. Because don't forget, every turn this list can pick up with a strat and a bit. Like you could pick all 3 Ravner units up. You can pick 2 units up. If somebody comes close to 2 units, you can move them. Yeah.
Then fight phase pickups.
Jesus.
Yeah. You can pick up like 3 to 7 units a turn to read Deep Strike. That's
quite
ridiculous. In a cards meta, if this doesn't come back with 35 to 40 points on cards, I'd be very surprised. So you're then going, well, if it can just hold on to primaries with loan up, because don't forget, this also has the ability to pick a unit. If you're not within 12, you can't shoot it. It also, the other half of that strat is if it's a loan up, you can't shoot it within 6 inches.
Ooh,
so
holy.
So like my loan up is safe. I can put a loan up on the back of this objective, and you literally have to be on the objective to shoot him. So there's little things like that. Quite
nice. Very nice.
So I would be really interested to get insights from this army played by like a top player,
right?
After 30 games of that player playing.
Yes, yeah. He might turn around and go.
That's one of the lists I think where if you stick to your guns and play the fuck out of it, I think you might very much surprise a lot of people.
Yes. Then another player that I have here, not because of the army he plays, but rather a name that you might not be familiar, and that's Thomas Wobeck from Austria, who's playing Eldari. Very cookie cutter list. That's Outright Will Leaper with Phoenix Gem, Fugen, Spirit Seer, Incarn, 5 Fire Dragons, 3 Night Spinners, 5 Rangers, 5 Swooping Hawks, 2x1 Warwalker, and 10 Raveguard. For anyone watching / listening, no, Fugen is not joining those Fire Dragons.
Oh, he's definitely not. That's not a thing.
That's not happening. I think this might be like this and 2 singular Warwalkers might be an answer into CSM or some other armies that you want cheaper units that you can trade for a transport and then just nuke the squad inside, which with the reliability that the army has and the Fire Dragons having Meltas with strength 9 in Eldar is actually a breakpoint, because I don't want to lie, but I'm pretty sure they have strength 9, so I'm a fire up.
They do.
So yeah, they are strength 9 and also
this is this correct? He does not have a Farseer in the list.
No.
All right.
And I don't think it's necessarily bad, because when you look at the meta, you have Marines with Whirlwinds, you have other Night Spin, although other Eldar will just shoot your Night Spinners with their Night Spinners. But I don't think it's necessarily a bad idea, because most armies still try to play around Raveguard. And like, I can see this being a choice. Like, I don't think you have to have the Farseer in your list. And Ben is saying that
Mr.
he
Ben
wishes that he can,
with the
the Scott himself.
The Scott himself, yeah. I think, what are the Warwalkers running right now? Because I have never
2 Bright Lances.
2 Lances, right?
Yeah.
With the dice, you probably are
dice and rerolls. Like, you can kind of reliably
kill
off the
Rhino. Mm-hmm.
They give
It's
you
very
some directional shooting, which actually sometimes you play Eldar and go, if I literally
Yeah, I
say
can
20
just deploy
package-
on the line because fuck you.
Yeah,
Yep.
just like deploy.
Been
You
there.
either have indirect or you only have an 18-inch gun. So
Yep.
I can deploy where I want. Because you might go, oh, he's got 2 Warwalkers. I don't want him to shoot a Chaos Knight and then Young Khan pops over. So I maybe have to hide it. I actually quite like the 2 single Warwalkers.
Yeah.
Although I was super
Like-
disappointed. I was like, Furgan, Fire Dragons, right, where's the Falcon? Where's my 4th edition army?
Yeah,
And then it's not. It's like,
it's only in Duda's list.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think this. What I specifically wanted to say here is for those listening that do not know the guy, Thomas won singles, and by singles I mean War Master at WTC. And he was one of the. I think he nearly 20'd every matchup he played against, except Liam Hackett at WTC, where Liam Hackett just tied up a heavy weapon support platform and
Oh, I
could
heard
never
about
leave
that.
the
Yeah.
combat. But
Makes
yeah,
it more.
so he is a very solid player. He's one of the 2 players that kinda carried is a bad word. Like whole Austrian team performed really well this year. I think they ended up on 8th spot. But he was one of those players. Basically, they are twins. Him and his brother are twins who play 40k. And they carried the team being one of the best players at that event, which showed when he won singles. So this is another player that you might not know because he doesn't play many ITC events, so he would not be high on those ELO charts that Tacek provided, so us. Or neither you could see them really in the ITC rankings as well, because he has maybe like 4 or 5 events, but those events might be like 100 people or more. Not those super majors that you need to be high in ITC. So this is a person to watch out. I wouldn't be surprised
He is
if he.
in a very spicy group 4, by the way.
Yeah,
Which is probably the second strongest. It has Manny, Anthony Vanilla, David Gaylord, from people I know, because everybody here is fucking stacked.
then there's Gonyo.
Andrew Gonyo, Jaime is here. It's a difficult fucking plot. Not that like there's any easy ones, but this one is particularly, I think, spicy.
Yeah. Anything to add, or should we move on?
It's Elder. I cannot believe Raid Guard is still a thing. Is what I'm gonna say about Elder. I'm
but
legitimately. I have
we
become
are
a Raid Guard
destroyed.
hunter,
Same, but we are spoiled by Duda.
I guess.
And then, ya boy Pumba.
My boy, the man, the single pole traveling across the pond to smash those pesky Brits,
Yankees.
the Yankees, and the Chinese apparently, and all the rest of you fuckers. Leuleu is coming to Atlanta. He's bringing a very spicy Dark Angels Vanguard list. He has been trying a lot
And
of Space Marines
right
builds.
now, just information, right now he is playtesting with Gito against Liam Hackett's list.
I kid you fucking not. I was supposed to go off work, like go from work to go back from work earlier today just to practice Liam VSL's list into him because I just didn't have time.
Leuleu is
but that was
sitting
supposed
in
to
his
happen.
hotel room playing TTS.
He's legitimately
for a
fucking
week.
grinding games right now in Atlanta through TTS with
Okay.
Gito. So that's the situation here. Leuleu has been through a lot of different Space Marine ideas. He has been testing like the Blood Angels Firestorm detachment stuff with Death Company,
Which he hated.
which he fucking despised. And like he still like thought if he could bring the Gladius list, but he didn't like that either. And finally he landed on Vanguard, which is a spicy pick. So Azrael, Chaplain and Terminator armor. Does anybody know what the enhancements in the Vanguard detachment do? Because I fucking have no clue, so I'm gonna check that out while reading the list. We have a
I will read the
armor.
list, you can check it.
Yeah, thank you.
Then there's Librarian Phobos armor with Shadow War Veteran enhancement. Pumba will tell us later. 2 times 3-man Centurion Devastator squads with last cannons and grenade launchers, I assume. 10 Deathwing Knights, Eradicator squad, 3 Plasma Scepters, 6 Plasma Scepters, 5 infiltrators, 5 scouts, and 2 whirlwinds.
Yeah, so Shadow War Veteran is Vect, and the Blade Driven Deep is, of course, the Infiltrate on a squad, because this gentleman is leading the 10 Deathwing Knights. He's joining them, and through this, they gain Infiltrator's ability, which is pretty fucking good on 10 Deathwing Knights sitting 9 inches from a deployment zone. Apparently, I've heard.
I'd love to know the fluff behind how a sword does that, but okay. Sure.
Look, it's special. It's 40k fluff. It's
Swords can go deep. You've seen those performers.
Sure. We've got 2. Other than that, I think this list suffers the same thing as every other Spaceman is right now, as you have 5 billion datasheets, and there's like 15 maybe playable ones, maybe, and that's pushing it, probably like 10. And you're basically building a list out of playable datasheets in the normal Space Marine Codex. You are choosing your flavor, if that's like Dark Angels because you want Deathwing Knights, if that's Blood Angels because you want Death Company, or maybe it's Ultramarines because you want Uriel Ventress. This is basically the Dark Angels version. Azrael is a very nice addition, adding in extra CP generation. You have, of course, Plasma Scepters. I believe one of the 3 Plasma Scepters are actually running bolters, if I am not mistaken, because I was building this list kind of with Leuleu. But other than that, Plasma Scepters is this hammer unit. Eradicators is easy like that. The spicy thing, 2x3 Centurions, Devastators with last cannons, because this detachment provides you with a very interesting stratagem that basically, if you are shooting something out of 12 inches range, so more, you are gaining +1 ballistic skill and +1 AP, which is pretty fucking good. Yep. They are twin linked, of course.
They have innate rerolls once to hit.
Yep. They rerolls once to hit innately. They are hitting on 2 pluses, I believe. And they have twin linked, of course. And the spicy thing is, this is basically this detachment is, of course, the equivalent basically of Nid's Vanguard detachment. So it has a lot of movement tricks. It can redeploy units like crazy. It can bring them off the board and deploy them once again. It has, of course, the infiltrating Deathwing Knights. It has one of the spiciest things is actually if you target a unit with a charge, it can move D6 inches or 6 flat if that's a Phobos or Scout Squad unit. So this also has a lot of tricks in terms of movement. What it kind of lacks is the pure raw damage output. So it doesn't have like the lance stratagem of any sort, something that increases the AP of the Deathwing Knights. So it can struggle a little bit in the sense that this hammer unit of Deathwing Knights is a little bit anchory, as it's hard to shift. It has a lot of tricks, but it doesn't necessarily punch as hard as it used to in like Gladius unit. But this is kind of, by the way, Leuleu, the original inventor that the Land Raider Redeemer is actually good, not running Land Raider Redeemer anymore, found it way too clunky, and after the reels tuned were gone from the Oaths of Moment, I don't believe he's a fan of it anymore. And after testing it some more. Other than that, Scoring Shaft, Plasma Scepters, Librarian joining the Infiltrators to give them loan up. It's very standard, as I've said. So this list, I think, I have actually no experience playing against Vanguard Space Marines. And this list really loves going first. Because fucking hell. Like, legitimately, if this list goes first enough times, I think there's a lot of games that's he's just going to win off of that. 10 Deathwing Knights charging you in the first turn, just literally standing there, blocking your deployments, blocking your ways of getting out of your deployment for your vehicles and stuff, for your rhinos. That might be just enough to win you the game, straight up. It's amazing at that. It has some of the tricks. It has repositioning units, so it kind of works a little bit like the old Deathwatch did. Yeah, it's a good time list. I think I like it way more than I did all of the whatchamacallit, the Firestorm detachment stuff. I wonder if I like it more than Nasim/Ines list, or I like it more than like what Jack Harper is presenting with his Crusaders squads or rather Swordburden squads.
Or
But yeah,
Olivier. I
or
really
Oliver
like
Weiss,
Olivier's
very
list
similar
as
list.
well.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting Space Marines ideas in this tournament. I have legitimately no clue which is better than others, if there's even one that is better than others. But this is definitely one of the more unique takes, because the Blood Temples is kind of repeat each other, like after each other. You've got Jacobsters, you've got Oliver Weiss playing them. This is very out there, and I like this build a lot. Yeah, I think this is kind of also leaning towards the mentality that a lot of people in Poland have, which is singles is just about going first enough times to win. And I very like Leshu embracing that idea and just literally making the list out of it.
And our experience with him is he might pull it off because he's him.
He might pull it off, or he might not start a single game. Since he has been playing in more team tournaments with me, he has been all out of luck, which is curious.
Okay, but regarding Leshu, there's one serious question that we need to ask.
Yes.
Do they make porter beers in Atlanta?
They surely do, right? That's very that's actually legitimately, that's probably the most important question.
That's his fuel, because we would buy him porter beers at WTCs so he can perform. And that's like a running joke in our team.
I think Leshu's performance is very tightly knit to the extent of US beer situation and bar situation and pub situation. I think it's crucial for him to have that behind him if he's coming to the table.
That is the Neil Kerr system of playing games.
Certified.
Very much was an enhanced player, almost like a PED when he drank beer. He was 5 beers in and he would somehow get better and his dice would improve. And
that's the MVSL to you as well.
Oh, that's also the case. Holy shit. What happens if they drink together like in the evening and they play the next day and they are both drunk?
I wish that's on a stream.
That would be glorious.
I've
seen Liam
games like this weekend
in very different states, and he's always 20 zeros people when he's drunk. So that's the situation.
Yeah. For example, me when he was not able to stand yet.
But, yeah, that was true. You looked lovely together, by the way.
Thanks. Moving forward, a list that you like, Pumba, and that's something that we would, I don't know, shout out Nasim, but that would be very much not true, because Nathan, what's the origin of the list?
The only Algerian in the tournament.
So,
possibly.
I believe now, from what I've heard, is Nasim and Innes worked on the list together. More than Nasim beat Innes and then Innes copied it, which was the original stick that Nasim was saying on our chat, which now that I've heard that they worked on it together seems a lot more realistic. So going through the list, Nasim's taking Blood Angels, Ironstorm. It's got Lamartes, a Tech Marine with Target Augury Web, which I can't remember which one that one is again. Is that the...
that's the lethal hits one.
Lethal hits.
That's the lethal hits.
Yeah.
Sanguinor, 2 Ball Predators with Trip Flamers on them. 2 units of 10 Death Company with jump packs. They've got Power Fists and Inferno Pistols on everybody. 3x3 Plasma Interceptors, a unit of Scouts, 2 Stormhawk Interceptors, so Flyers are back, and then 3 Whirlwinds. With this list, this is abusing the GW terrain. So that's why I thought it was quite interesting, because effectively things like the 2 Stormhawk Interceptors have old towering when they come off the table. So what this kind of allows you to do is, in a meta where you have against Eldar, if you can kill everything around the Wraithguard blob, you can usually win the game, which Marines are quite good at doing that with with the whirlwinds, the 2 flyers, plasma inceptors dropping in. Bold predators are fantastic against Eldar. You've then got against, say, CSM. You need to be able to pop those transports, which on this terrain is a lot easier because they can't just hide and tuck in a corner. They don't necessarily have the same staging points that they do, say, at what we're used to at UKGT events. Death Company usually go toe-to-toe with quite a lot of things, being -1 damage, lethal hits, loads of pathos, tons of attacks. There's just little things like Ball Predators they're able to advance and still shoot infantry squads. So you can just go hyper-aggressive with them, try and pick on some MSU squads. Then somebody else tries to move another MSU squad, and you go, right, Overwatch. It's another 3 flamers, and they just become a nuisance. They're good for objectives. They're 125 points, so they're dirt cheap. Just really useful units. Flyers able to actually pop the transport, whirlwinds able to then pop the units inside. So this is predominantly from what he's done from playtesting, been able to beat Eldar and CSM, which, as we've seen from most statistics, are the 2 more favorited armies at the moment. Whether it can beat the Necrons of this world, whether it can beat that Death Guard list, I'd be surprised. But if he can get the right matchups, do normal NAS things, actually turn up to the event, that would be a good start.
It's a 50-50.
Don't go too crazy. Like, I don't know how much we can talk about on this podcast.
We can.
At Battle of Britain recently,
let's go.
I'll keep the story as brief as possible. He managed to throw up in the same bar 2 days in a row.
Ooh.
It was actually quite impressive. And there's a picture that I don't want to send anyone. I
have seen that picture, and I regret having eyes. It's not a pleasant sight, no.
I tried to get him to go home. He ran away from us, and then he made out with a MILF who had teeth like the... do you remember the truck mentor from...
Wait, I have not heard the entire story then. Holy shit.
Have you seen Cars, the animated movie?
Yes.
Yes.
You know Meter, the one with
oh my god.
Made out with a girl who looked like that. So, it was a fun night because when there's a nightclub in England called Pop World, which is effectively plays like 90s and noughties pop music. So it's 30, 40 plus realistically, and he's 23, 24. So he did some despicable
things. He's 15, maybe.
Yeah, it might as well be. Well, mentally, yes. But we love you, Naz.
Yes, Valentin. He needs Jesus.
So yeah, he's a bit of a specimen.
Great player. By the way, I see a trend in this Warhammer kind of situation that we are having, that like half of the people going to the Warhammer championships are basically known for getting drunk. It's a theme. I hear.
We're a fun bunch. Half of them.
Warhammer is fun, and also even more fun if you're not playing Warhammer, just drinking beers at the pub with the lads.
But realistically, like, think of all the ones that you know that drink a lot at games. Do any of them have a bad rep for playing?
No.
I can't think of any of them that have. They're not the case.
I can think about one from US.
Oh, okay. But generally,
yeah. Back to the list.
Yes.
Lest we forget. Actually, my favorite part of it is the Sanguiner. I am a huge fan. When I was playing the Rangers for a short little while before actually the Codex came out, I was running Sanguine back then, and I thought he was pretty good, and I would always run him. He's on an expensive side, definitely for what he does, but he is excellent. And I think right now he's better than ever before, at least in 10th edition, because you finally have the situation where you have a lot of kind of melee trading units meta. You have war leaders, you have the CSM, and fight first overall has become incredibly valuable, I think. It's one of the reasons why, for example, Duda is running his Vizark with the players, because suddenly, what do war leaders do when they see a fight first fucking chaff character? It's a problem. It's always a problem for many armies. And here, when he can legitimately heroic from a deep strike, so he always is where he's required. You have basically no say in or like counterplay to deny him heroic intervening with fight first on him. I think he's absolutely excellent.
Into like Berserker squads. 8 attacks, strength 6, AP 3, damage 2, dev wounds.
He's pretty good. Like he will kill some stuff. He's not batshit insane in combat. He's also not like insanely durable, but he blunts you. And like what's very important here is he doesn't necessarily need to kill the unit. With how the fight phase works right now, it might be just viable for him to be placed in a way that denies your opponent piling in and actually hitting the thing that they want to hit. It's basically like using him back when in 9th edition, when you had the Angel's Sacrifice, I think, when you would heroic Sanguinor, when, for example, your fucking flyer and when he wanted to just go, slap something, and then overrun, you would just place a unit of Sanguinor, use Angel's Sacrifice, Sanguinor dies, but he stays in combat.
Yeah,
it's a great counterplay,
and
it works in
specifically says he needs to start within. He needs to be set up within engagement range, which allows you way more issues for your opponent how they need to move.
Exactly, because you need to be set up in engagement range. That's fine, but it doesn't need to be base to base. You can very precisely measure him. So, for example, as many moles as possible needs to go towards him instead of the actual charge target that you were planning for. It's huge. Like, for example, if you think about CSM units with Chosen and Lords, legitimately it's just the Lord that slaps hard. It's like the Chosen do something, but Lords is the meat and like the meat in the dinner, I guess. And if you can deny that Lord going into the unit and just slapping Sanguinor, that can win you the game straight up.
To be fair, Sanguinor
you are one trade up.
Kills that Lord, but that's another topic.
I just learned I'm playing Death Guard Mirror in our scrim against Northern Ireland. I'm gonna die.
I thought you only lost to 12-year-old kids.
Shit! Look, it's a situation.
I'm
not proud of it. It happens.
You're now going to have to drop.
I lose against 12-year-old kids. I beat 15-year-olds at WTC when playing the finals against England. Right? It's all like fair.
Yeah.
I'm even against underaged people.
You should change your little thing under Pumba to say "kid kicker."
I'm more getting kicked by kids right now than anything else. But
you're playing against Caillou, right? Caillou is playing Death Guard, so
I have no fucking clue. Caillou, I think, is playing Eldar. But anyway, okay, is that it?
Yeah, like I think he has a good chance of doing well, but we'll see.
By the way, point for point, the same list that Ines is bringing, right? I'm not wrong.
Yeah, I think it's exactly the same. Yeah, I think they decided to take the same thing.
Moving forward. No, and there's also another list for you, Pumba. There's still 2 players, so let's get through it. So then we have Lamar, one of the few sister players that's attending the event. And although there was one player that you might know more, Jeff, who just decided to slaughter entire Art of War stream house with his cat ears. And, well, you know him at this point, so I decided to highlight Lamar, who performed quite well at LGT. He went 4-1 at LGT, and he's one of those players who made Liam VSL sweat at few tournaments, losing every time, I think, 9-11 against Liam VSL, which is, not a bad scoring to Liam. And Lamar is one of the players who was on the French team, and he's fielding sisters, and he has something quite cookie cutter for sisters. He has Dialogus, Junith, Morven, Palatine, Preacher, Triumph, 10 sisters, 3 rhinos, 2x10 Arcoflagellants, 2 castigators, 1 with autocannon, 1 with battle cannon, 2-man squad of crusaders, 2-man squad of death cult assassins, 2 exorcists, 3-man Paragon squad, and 5-man Seraphim squad. So it is a very straightforward sister list, like what you would expect, the standard of 1,400 points that's common between every sister list, and then you choose the remaining 600 points. In his case, he went for Paragons with Val and some more shooting over more Arcoflagellants and some more Rhinos over some more units. Like, that's just choices. And I think this is an army that is really good in singles meta, not because it is favored into many armies. It's just an army that can, I think, win into every army in the game. But it's up to both players to make that happen. But it's an army that, from the games I've played, I felt every game, even though sometimes I lost them, I felt like it was still up to me, and my decisions made me lose that game instead of the pairing being a complete no game. So I don't expect Sisters to go into top 8 this event. Sorry to say that. But I think this is an army that will be present through a lot of very good players nowadays. And you'll see more of it because last weekend Vic got 5-0 at Coventry. Jack, the English coach from WTC, got 6-2. Correct, Nathan?
Yeah.
So this army is quite good. I think we'll see more of it. I don't think there's more to dive in. If you want to dive in more into it, listen to Sister Acts by Mitch Beard. Good plug. Moving forward. Pumba, your rojo friend.
We have the Great Wizard of Saragossa, the Troxer, the member of Team Spain for WTC, a person who went with absolutely insane scores, by the way, at WTC, from what I remember, either scoring zeros on 20s, nothing in between, entire tournament. So baller move. And he's on Thousand Suns, which was my army of choice at the beginning of 10th edition. And I've jumped off that ship very quickly after playing some games after the data slate. I am one of those people that who didn't believe in Thousand Suns and still kind of doesn't. But I'm very interested to see what him and Brian Sipe are going to do at the actual tournament. So this list kind of doesn't innovate as much, I would say, because it's Ahriman Disc, it's 2 Exalted Sorcerers on Disc, one with Umbrellific Crystal, so teleportation, 2 Infernal Molsons, one with Arcane Vortex, so the one that slaps and deals incredible amounts of damage. You have Magnus, you have a single sorcerer with Lord of Forbidden Lore, which allows you to use 2 of your Kabbalistic rituals. Basically, to use them 2 times instead of 1. 5 units of 5 Ruby Marines, a single Rhino, Mythologic Vortex Beast, and the Changeling. Kind of in line of what actually was played at the WTC, very similar to like Vic VJ's / Arne's list for WTC. My problem with it, and I'm like, this is exactly what I wanted, why I wanted to showcase it, because it's either this is bad or it's not, and I don't understand how this is supposed to play in the current meta. Because my point would be actually to kind of criticize this list for what it is and what are, in my opinion, its problems. But possibly I'm just a dumbass and I don't know, which is fine, by the way, in Warhammer. It sometimes happens. So I think, whereas in back in WTC days, this kind of list had a lot of better matchups than it currently does. I think this very much struggles into CSM. I don't think Thousand Suns are particularly good into transport meta, especially now that they lost the ability for the army to 0 CP the
Indirect
stratagem that allows your whole army to fire at something from behind walls. This cannot be used for free with the Kabbalistic Ritual anymore, which was, I think, the huge hit, like the biggest hit the army took in the data slate. And overall, I'm not entirely sure what are this list's good matchups, because I think it might struggle into CSM. I think this isn't super amazing into like Necrons. I think it was actually better into Wraith Knight Eldari than the current iterations of Eldari. And I'm kind of lost for why are Thousand Suns good right now. I think it will be very interesting for me to see people like Troxer, who is he's the Thousand Suns guy. He has been playing them for years now, and he's never jumped ship ever, including this Warhammer Championships, which I really admire. But I'm very curious to what him and Brian Sipe are going to do at the event and how they are going to perform. Because it's either, even though I'm a Thousand Suns player, I just am dumb and I cannot see something, or this list is just unoptimal in the meta, let's say.
I think one of the reasons Brian swapped over, I played his Eldar at BOB a couple of weeks ago, and he got to the same kind of conclusion Josh did, where that Eldar list is so boring and so awful to play. I think he was at the point where he's just like, I'd rather just play anything, so was happy to just play Thousand Suns. I think
I can see that, like, legitimately.
Yeah.
It's one of the great factors in this event as well. Like, everybody wants to put their best thing forward, right? And try to do as well as possible. But at the same time, if you're trying across the ocean to play Warhammer with some of the best people in the world, you kind of just don't want to suffer. Also, if you are one of the players that is known for his expertise in one army, as Troxer is, you just probably take the army because you are so known for it, and it's your shtick. You're the specialist, and it's kind of nice to represent that faction at the event.
Yeah, like if he'd a last minute swap to CSM just to try and win it, it's just like, yeah.
You could, but
I get it, but like, don't. Yeah, play
I don't think I've ever seen Troxer play something else than yes.
Nah, never. Legitimately. He's been to like Alpine.
I mean,
he's been to WC,
look at his name.
Excuse me?
Look at his name, Troxer the Red.
I mean,
like,
it's the thing. It's the Wizard of Saragossa. I told you. The guy literally generates Cabal points himself. Oh, sorry. I'm just kidding. But yeah.
Yeah, going back to your point, I'm not quite sure where they sit in the meta right now. I think Brian got pumped by Sisters last weekend, and it's just, I think they just, like you say, into some of the top armies now. I just don't really see where they are. Marines,
I would not like to play the Elder list in this event. If I went there, and even if I really wanted to win, I think playing Elder is gonna be a miserable experience for a lot of people. Unless you are a super like an Eldar guy who really enjoys the faction and plays them a lot. Like, for example, Thomas Wobach has been playing Eldar for years now, I think. So that's obviously what you do. But other than that, I don't think what I enjoy about this meta right now the most is the fact that legitimately there is not a single build that doesn't have an answer to it. I think you can counter anything. You might sacrifice some other pairings to do so, but you will probably figure out the answer to Elder and CSM, like, for example, what Innocent Nasim did, right? Mm-hmm. And it's very nice to see.
Yeah. So that's us done with the list. I think we can all agree that the hardest spot is whichever our favorite player is in.
Amen. Amen to that.
Because that's a conversation that I've seen so much over the internet, and I think it all boils down who you root for. So for us, it's
to be honest, I have seen repeatedly that the group 8 with the Liam duo as well as LSU and like fucking Quinton and Fred, it's a little fucked. I think this is still like my number one pod, but they are all.
We might be biased, and then Nathan chose armies of players who are in Josh's spot. So
I mean, Exactly.
yeah. So
I was going to do
makes
Lennon's
sense.
list as well. Yeah.
I actually really like thought about that, but then we were supposed to highlight people who we don't know, and John Lennon is literally the most Warhammer. He's the John Warhammer at this point.
Yeah. Who do you think
So
will win
we
the
have-
nation thing?
I think it's a difficult one. I'm gonna be honest.
Not
I
Poland,
think
we
it's
have 3 total of Poland in all the systems.
yeah. We have like 2 kill team
T1
players at Leuleu.
Okay. So
Only 5 best results are taken into consideration.
yes, including painting. Leuleu is not getting that one.
Oh
seeing
my
the
God.
pictures he sent us.
I think he just assembled his models like today, or some of them, which is a tradition.
If you've seen Naz's army and Manny's army,
I've seen Naz's army posted
Oh,
all over the internet, and I regret having guys again.
Unfortunately, I've seen both.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a
They
very
look like
unfortunate
they-
event.
they might as well have used crayons. It was horrific.
I
And the
would
problem
have
is-
loved that.
So, like, we've got Boris in our chat for Team England because he's blind this year, and he posted up this like he's made his display base for his army and everything else. I'm just like, Manny and Naz are just going to drag your score down. But
That's so true.
Boris might be my choice for best overall.
Oh,
Because
that's
I think because that's how he got the gold ticket for Warhammer Fest. He went 5-0 and got nominated for best painted. So
that's a very good
point.
point. That's a very good point. But I also know that America has some incredible painters who are also good players.
Yeah.
Like say Andrew Gonio is fucking. I mean, it's Andrew fucking Gonio. If anybody's newer to Warhammer, he might not know who Andrew Gonio is, but he was the captain of Team USA for like years and years,
So
right?
he is basically father of Team USA for 2K.
Exactly.
Him or Greg Sparks, yeah.
Yeah, but he has been.
Yeah, you could say them both. Yeah.
Yeah, he was the
Then
captain
Nathan
of Team
took
America
over
for
in,
years and
what,
years. He's
2018?
incredible, and like Sean Nathan and Boris, apparently, I've seen a trend of just old Warhammer people just starting painting armies and then being like, "Yeah, this is what we are good at now," and we might win something sometimes, and then just still fucking smash everybody, but just have nice armies. Whereas all the new bloods like Nasim, me, Liam have the most shittiest painted armies like you've ever fucking seen. Basically defying the whole point of the hobby aspect of it. But yeah, that's the situation we are in.
In Poland, it's only me and Duda trying to save it.
You are doomed.
Sure.
There's no
So-
have you seen any tournament in
Good
Poland?
luck with
It's
that.
doomed.
No, that's
It's
actually a
doomed from the
question
beginning.
I've got. That's the question I've got from the Germans when they come over for Pyracap. Like, do you guys actually like paint any of your models nice? Like, no. Anyway,
Some of us do.
We've got some show questions. Let's jump into them before we can finish and go to sleep. Sweet sleep. I cannot speak English. So we can watch people get hammered tomorrow already. And in case of Nas, I'm pretty sure he's hammered already because it's what?
Isn't he India?
5 p.m. 5 p.m. in US.
Probably got hammered on the flight, to be honest. Surprised he was allowed on the flight.
He actually did. He actually did. We have proof.
Fuck
He got hammered before and during.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
So, first question from YouTube chatter. We'll get to the Discord chat soon. I don't think there were any voting lists that were interesting to watch at the event. I think nearly all of the lists I've seen from Voten I disliked.
They're all
Really?
roughly the same. Double Hearthguard, 5. There was a couple of ones that had like 2 Sagittarius and I stopped reading.
Or like 18
sure.
Thunderkin.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's a small number of units codex, right? There's a lot of data sheets to choose from, and some of them are so fucking clearly undercosted or over, I don't know, over efficient for the points that it's very hard to argue with bringing like fucking 5 or 6 Sagittars always.
Yeah, but we didn't pinpoint any Voten list because I don't think they are also an army or the players playing them were that interesting to show compared to other armies that we show.
Why are you just shouting like calling out Jeremy right now? Why are you doing this? This is
Because I said that, as a fellow stat checker, I just wanted to shout out people who are worth it. So,
Amen. Amen.
So let's get into the Discord questions. So first question, which is, well, let's say it's a tougher nut to crack. What are some things that, as someone newer to teams, I should be considering when building a list? I know allies can only be taken in one Imperium Chaos list, but how do things like building for secondaries, unit choices, compositions, and matchups affect list construction? I think this is a question that we cannot answer within 5 minutes.
This is a loaded question, yes.
This is a question that I would imagine down the road at one point we'll just have a whole show about it. Maybe Nathan, if we ever get that Scream Poland versus England, we could just get into that and just talk about it.
Yeah.
But what I'm going to say, to just touch upon that question, what differentiates list building for teams and singles, mainly, like the very surface level thing, is the fact that you can consciously decide when building a list that some of your matchups are going to be terrible to improve others. I think this is the main difference that you can account for when building your list. For example, instead of picking something or like choosing units that allow you to clear every single profile in the game, for example, or in the meta, you might want to say, I am going to be absolutely incredibly fucked if I go against knights or monster Tyranids. But I am making that conscious decision to not include units that are good in dealing with those things, instead focusing to bringing my other matchups to a better score, or like the units that are better in those matchups. I think this is like the very surface level answer, but I think it satisfies at least a bit of it.
Yeah. Can I add to that as well?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
The other thing I would say for teams as well is looking at it from, again, if we're looking at trying to answer it very basically, looking at it from points versus damage. You've got to kind of look at it and go, points differential is such a big thing at teams, where in singles you might go, this list will just easily win by inches. You have to go, well, actually, if I want that win for this team, it can't be 11. It needs to be 15, or it needs to be at least 13 plus, etc. So sometimes it's sacrificing the amount of damage you put in to being able to actually make sure you can get 40 on primary, make sure you get 30 to 40 on secondaries. Obviously, unless your Naz turn up with a painted army, so you get the other 10. So it's like, if you want to be, you could be in a put forward place where you can go, well, I know I can get 80 odd points out of this game, to then go, well, the best you can do is 14, 13 against me. So I guess it's way more complicated, like you said, but it's working on like points differential, not losing too big, and how you win too big, that kind of thing.
Yep, 100%.
Then there we have a question that's really quick to answer. What's the name of that Polish soup that Antoni is nuts for, and do you have a good recipe? Obviously, I do not have a good recipe, but I can tell you the name. That's żurek z białą kiełbasą.
Bro, your mother has the recipe. What the fuck do you mean? You can just get
everyone
it.
mother.
You should just post it, by the way. Like somewhere.
Yeah, I did it. I did it in the answer, obviously.
No, you should post the recipe somewhere in the subject list, or is that what I mean?
Surely,
just
people
get the recipe
do...
from your mother. He cooks the fucking. She
sure,
cooks
that's the one
thing.
that Antoni really liked. The one that my.
That's what I mean.
Actually...
You can just fucking do it. What do you mean you don't?
Yeah,
have
but
the
that would require talking with your relatives.
Oh my
god!
Know what? Sorry.
She's supposed to call me tomorrow because I have birthday. Like, I will just stop her giving me the wishes, and I will just ask for the fucking recipe. That's the way to do it. Anyway, third, and then we had Mike Werb asking. That's not a question, Mike Werb. So
that's not a question. We can briefly touch upon it, even though we basically covered it in the show. I'd love to hear which European unknowns all the Americans should be scared of. All of these that we've mentioned in this show are definitely someone to watch for. There's many others. There's Oliver Weiss,
Fred Otto.
Fred Otto.
Fred
Oliver
Otto
Weiss, I think, is absolutely fucking. He's one of the people who I was strongly considering showing his list in this episode. He is the French. Is the previous French captain technically. He is one of the
he got into top 8 at
innovates the most. Excuse me.
He got top 8 at LGT.
Yeah, and he's one of the people who innovates the most in Space Marines list from what I've seen. And he has been for years now. So his lists are always something to watch out for. And he has incredible player skill as well.
Then in Group 8, I'll just quickly skim through groups, saying some of the names that I know throughout the years of playing WTC/ETC. In Group 8, there's also Eetu Peltola, a player who started playing in Finland and was their highest scoring player for a few years in a row. He's playing Eldar in a group of Necron, so we'll see how that fares. But then in Group 7, there's Arne. Arne is not a bad player. Then there's Troxer that we just mentioned. And then Oliver Weiss in the same group. Then we have Group 6 that doesn't really have any of the very notable WTC players.
I have one, by the way, just skimming through the groups. Group 2 has Matej. Let's butcher that one. Sashar. That's probably horrible.
The AdMech from...
Exactly, the Hungarian AdMech player who has been, I believe, who lived sometime in the States. Actually, I believe he played against some of the Art of War guys previously. Incredible player who is, I think, the only AdMech in the event. But I very much would like to see him, for example, on the stream. I think he's amazing, and he's the only one to represent Hungary as well. And I've heard I've heard more than you would expect about him as a player from someone coming from Hungary and playing AdMech at this event.
And then we have in Group 3, I think Group 3 has quite a lot of good players as well. You have Guillaume from Belgium, who's a good player. Malte from Germany. Dino, although saying anything praising about Dino is
you just cannot ever say anything good about Dino. That's the rules.
Yeah, it just feels wrong. But there's also Antonin Man in 17th spot, guy who won Alpine singles.
Yep.
So person you might not know because he was playing, I think, finally in the Czech team at WTC, so they didn't perform as well.
Oh, Alejandro Serrano in the Group 3. He's the person who
the Blood Angels player that they had in the Spanish
team.
He
was playing Blood Angels at the WTC to great success, by the way. Very nice list at the WTC with great results. So that's going to be someone to watch, definitely.
So yeah, we have people also mentioning that there's Nicola Jenny.
Basically, what we are saying is if you bring all of the world's best players to a single tournament, it's gonna be fucking stacked, bro. Is what's happening.
And I think what's the main takeaway from our show is that we know that the media is very England and US centric.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think when looking at those groups, you should just scoff at people from Europe, especially that not maybe everyone who got golden ticket from Europe that's a really good player would fly over because the price is just too high sometimes, especially for the lower income countries. So
I love the fact that we have people from Thailand, from Vietnam, from China coming.
Yes.
It's legitimately amazing that we would be able, for the first time, I think, ever, as like a wider kind of Western world central 40k scene, take a peek into how is 40k played in countries like Asia.
And
Yeah,
that's something that I'm really looking forward to for next WTC. If all the teams that said they would manage to assemble a team for next WTC and we get to see some Asian teams, I hope Poland gets them in a pod so we get to play them.
Yeah.
Like, I genuinely would love to.
Well, like
Yeah.
if I don't make the England team, I can always apply for Thailand.
let's go.
I've lived there. I've lived there multiple times. So.
Let's go.
Yeah, I'm very much looking forward to how well some of the Asian nations do, especially with, I think there's 4 Thai players, multiple Chinese players. And yeah, again, there could be a dark horse with it and amongst them as well that we don't know about them from this point, from this side. So,
By the way,
yeah.
have we actually called out who's going to win the countries? Is it going to be England or is it going to be the US? Because I'm sorry, but
US, when you
is
take
it going to
40
be
players,
France? Is it going to be France?
France actually has really good models. Usually.
Yeah, they have amazingly painted armies. They have really good fucking players. They have also, I believe, there's something for being like the best like an army player for each faction, right? So they have sisters. I'm calling it. I think France have it. I think it's going to be France.
I'll go
you
for
have to
Germany.
do it over multiple seasons. Do you have to do it over the multiple games?
I have no fucking clue.
Are France represented in the other systems as well, Master?
Yeah.
Yes, they are.
That's a valid question. I have no clue about the scape
Yeah.
of AOS or for
Likewise,
Kill
yeah,
Team.
I don't know.
But I would just call Germany because if there's no chess clock,
Easy.
Fred can be as well undefeated.
Fucking. There you go.
That's true, yeah.
Just one more question to me specifically. Pumba, if you were going to Worlds, would you bring a hammer in a metal or a metal full of nails as your army? I would bring Death Guard because they are broken. And this is my hot take for this. Until this weekend, when I come across an army or like a play that I didn't encounter for when playing my tournament this weekend, and I'm gonna be fucking furious and tell you that Death Guard are probably shit. But I have not found that yet, so I can be excited as much as I can.
On the closing notes, then, so we need to give some plugs in. So if you like what we do, you can always subscribe, support us on Patreon. I don't know, go for the other shows if you like listening about non-teams stuff, and if you're a weirdo like that. Or you can also, if you dislike our shows and still comment that we are shit, it will also make
engagement is good.
So please call Pumba ugly. We do it quite often. Like, you can engage into our celebrations in Poland as well. So having said that, thanks for listening. For those who do not know, we are doing this bi-weekly. So if you have any ideas what you want us to touch upon and you are on our StatCheck Discord, please post any ideas. You can message them to me, Pumba and Nathan directly. We are always looking for different topics because sometimes it might be more stretched out whether we will find something worthy.
Yeah, if you have a team event coming up, for example, something important in your country happening, we are very welcome. Like, you are very welcome to message us. We are the ones that bring you the Eurosync kind of as well.
Yeah.
At least we try.
Anything else to add, boys?
No, good cast, guys.
Yeah, maybe
that was hype.
We got into too many stories, but
I mean,
shitting on Nas.
Really?
Always.
Did we?
No. I think we were quite on point, actually.
Right.
I think he does. So, on that beautiful closing note, see you in the next one.
Goodbye.